Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dungeons and Drafting, a literary podcast where four epic authors and an occasional guest join forces, combat evil, and talk about all things publishing and the creative process, all while playing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Tom Torre.
My name is Brooks Benjamin.
I'm Sean Easley.
And I'm MK England.
Yay, it's time for another episode.
Yay.
Who's excited? I'm excited. I've been pumped for D&D all weekend. We're already doing the dream sequence?
Oh, yeah. No, that was different. That was the transition.
Oh, that was
Dream
transition
is-
sequence. Okay.
Oh,
Keep it straight. Come on.
I don't know
I did
anything
miss it out.
anymore. So what's new with everyone? What have we been up to the last week?
I started Camp NaNoWriMo early. I think I said last time. I declared last week the actual April 1st. So I met my goal of writing 10,000 words on my first draft of my next project, which is exciting.
Awesome. Yeah,
Love actually achieving goals.
Yeah, I love your Instagram posts. How you always have your goals being reached, and then you go get a beer. So that's
Yes.
fantastic.
Then I forgot to take a picture of the
Yeah,
beer.
yeah,
It was very
yep.
sad.
Didn't
Yeah.
count them.
you did
Instagram
10,000
Live,
last week.
Yeah. So here's what I've been doing that's been working really well for me. On days that I work at my day job, my goal is 1,000 words. And I usually end up squeezing like at least a good bit of that in on like my lunch break and stuff like that at work. And then I just come home and like finish it up real quick before dinner. And then on my days off, it's 2,500 words. And then I stop. As soon as I hit that goal, I stop.
Really? This
Yes.
is like more of
And
our-
that has been like the game changer for me, because then my goal is not like, oh, my goal is 1,000 words, but like really it's as many words as I can possibly
Yeah.
do. So if you don't do as many words as possible, then you have failed. You know, it's like, here's your goal. You've accomplished your goal. Go do something fun with your life.
I like that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, that's a good move.
Yeah. Nothing really like exciting has happened to me except today, it being April 1st and me being a teacher. One of my students runs into my classroom with a Kleenex in her hand, and she's got this severed finger, what looks like a severed finger, and she's screaming. And of course, my brain's going, it's April Fool's, but it might not be. Oh my God, I'm freaking
Oh
out.
my God.
And I'm immediately thinking, where's the blood kit? What do I do? What is the protocol? And then, of course, everybody around her laughs. And what it was is she had her finger poked up through the Kleenex, and she had like fake blood on the knuckle, and it looked so real. And she's like Oscar-winning actor now in my mind because she sold it, because I was about to cry. So
I just want to give you a hug.
Yeah.
Also, you said Kleenex in her hand, and my mind instantly went to like, oh my God, there's a spider in there. I'm gonna
Yeah,
die.
I was thinking the same thing. Like she brought spiders into the classroom.
I just would have run. Yeah, I would have gone. I would have left the room.
Class is canceled. Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So I turned in my first pass pages this morning.
Yay.
Woo.
Congrats.
So happy. Went back over just all the changes I made today and ended up erasing like probably a good third of them. But there's something about like it's like eternal second guessing. Like it never ends. It's just so much.
Mhm.
And then this weekend I was at I went to a dinner, and it was a dinner with all these people, and it was a charity thing that they invited a whole bunch of authors. It's just kind of, it was really fun, but it was kind of weird because all the authors were sitting around the edge of the room. And we were kind of like conversation pieces for the dinner. And so everybody's kind of walking around, and it's really interesting, but it was a lot of fun. So
Are they just like talking about you? They're like in
Right
little
in
groups
front of
going
your
like,
face. That's him. That's
That's really
him.
great. No, great. Don't
But
talk
yeah,
to them.
it was really cool. It was neat. It was the first black tie optional event I've ever been to. So
Wow.
it was
You are fancy as hell, man.
Did you wear a black tie?
well. No, I didn't do the whole thing. It was black tie optional, so I did the option.
Gotcha.
But apparently, there are like real rules for that, and like very specific guidelines you're supposed to follow when it's black tie optional. So I spent like a whole afternoon watching YouTube videos to make sure I didn't make a fool of myself. And then I got there, and of course, all of the authors have to be there early. There were 10 of us. And we're all walking around like, okay, so this whole black tie thing, this is weird, right? It's like, I feel so awkward. I don't feel like I belong here.
An author event where I can't wear jeans. What is this?
Like, yeah, what is that? An author event? Yeah. So, but it was a lot of fun.
Would you have to wear like a jacket at a black tie? Is it also jacket optional?
The jacket is not optional, and
Yeah, it's full deal.
the tie is not optional.
The tie is not optional?
Black tie apparently just means that, like, it's a very specific. It's black tie is tuxedo, and when they say black tie optional, it means that there will be people in tuxedos, and there's a certain level at which you need to dress so that it's not awkward.
The only
Well, I've never
tuxedos,
been invited to one of those.
yeah, the only tuxedos I could ever pull off are the ones from like Dumb and Dumber or something like that are like purple and blue. It's the only thing I could wear.
Purple tux, I support it.
Doing it.
Baby blue or salmon. I like it.
Yeah, right.
I hate salmon as a color. Even the name, just like, whoa.
Salmon.
I like salmon. Salmon's delicious, but as a color, why would I want to be the color of a fish?
It should
A
stay in
raw
the fish.
fish. Come on.
It should stay in the fish
Yes.
memorandums.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
What did I do? I got back from PAX. We were just talking about it a little bit off stream, but yeah, I spent the entire weekend not writing and playing board games and video games for 5 days, which was very
Amazing.
relaxing. It's been 5 days straight of board games, video games, and D&D, and I'm just going right back into D&D, so I'm like extra excited to be back doing more D&D. So I'm on a D&D like high right now, and I just want to keep playing nonstop.
So you were playing D&D, and now you're about to play D&D. I get it.
I'm doing the D&D. That's one.
There we go.
Yeah. So if there's nothing else, we can jump right into the game if you're all up for it. If we're up to continuing our adventure in this fancy pants world.
Because you left us on a pretty huge cliffhanger, and I was mad at you, but also just thrilled that we had something to look forward to for next week. Something as epic as what you left us with.
Everything's going to be a cliffhanger. I will leave you guys hanging every week. Don't worry.
Yay, Casey!
I'm following my plotting outline that I have right now to make sure we're following the correct arcs.
Last time on Dungeons and Drafting, our spoony bards followed the unnecessarily mysterious Elaria Feywing to the fabled and dusty Crossroads Library, home to every book ever created, as well as those still being created. Upon entering, they discovered that the library was much larger than they had anticipated, and, being the wise and logical bards they are, they decided that they would need help to find Elaria. So they asked a bard that seemed as utterly lost as they were, but the bard was so uninspired by his own story that he couldn't work up the energy to help the adventurers. After helping the writer discover how he can find his own inspiration in writing, the chaos-seeking bards followed him to one of Elaria's offices in the private wing of the library. Inside, they found her studying the mystical and ornery die of Dungeons and Drafting. And as she revealed her findings, explaining that the die is calling adventurers to answer questions brought forth by bards of the land, the die flew out of her hand and into the darkness. The adventurers followed, looking for any opportunity to light fires and cause destruction to personal property, and encountered a group of ghouls that had made their home in the dank aisles of the unused library wing. When our heroes finally found the die, it rendered everyone who touched it immobile, and a shadowy image of an old bard appeared demanding that they answer yet another question. Their answers succeeded in calming the die, but still a shadowy creature took shape. Elaria joined in the battle, destroying the beast, as the adventurers took care of the remaining ghouls, thankfully without starting a fire that would burn down the greatest library that ever was. Knowing that the die of Dungeons and Drafting is a dangerous artifact, Elaria decided that they needed to seek more information by traveling to the place it was rumored to be created, the Cliffs of Insanity.
So, a little spoiler for you guys. The die is basically like the housing of tormented writers. It houses the souls of tormented writers, and that's how it has these questions locked in it.
We've been killing tormented writers?
No, Not really. You've
We
been
are
setting
the publishing industry.
you've been setting them free by answering these questions because they're trapped in this mindset and they can't get out.
But when we set them on fire accidentally, we
That's
also
your
set them free.
that's your problem, and that's what
We
you do.
do set them free when we put them on. Okay, so
If you
I'm
want
just
to
saying.
set them free by burning them, that's your deal. I don't know.
No
So
more fire.
yeah, no, I'm sure there'll be fire in this episode. There always seems to be fire.
I'm gonna stay away from it.
I hope we're
know.
leaving the library.
Like
Yeah,
2 episodes in a row.
we will be out in the wilderness in this episode, so no more building.
Oh, great. We
Nothing
can
burns out there.
Yes.
as long as it's not a library.
Actually, you guys might have an opportunity to burn some fun stuff this episode, so it'll be exciting. Yeah, so what the episode ended, so you defeated that shade, and Elaria says you guys have to go to the place where she believes the die was created, at this place at the top of the Cliffs of Insanity, hashtag Princess Bride. And then, the thing was, at the top of the Cliffs of Insanity, that's where you have to get to. It's at that mountain range you saw outside the city when you were first stepped out of it. So that's where you're going to be heading to today.
Cool.
So
Please make sure you actually say hashtag Princess Bride every time.
every time I will. Every time I say Cliffs of Insanity, we're at the Cliffs of Insanity. Hashtag Princess Bride. Side note, do you know they're making like a Princess Bride like Broadway play or something now?
Yeah, I heard
Disney's
that.
doing it.
Oh,
Yeah, so I am super stoked for that.
yeah,
I cannot
that's gonna be
wait.
cool.
Okay. So we all go with the backstory or remember what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So right now you are exiting the library of the Crossroads. You follow Elaria out, and she's already taken the die away from you, and she placed it in a satchel at her side. She's holding it really close to her as she's sort of racing through the streets. You're having a hard time keeping up with her because she's trying to get somewhere pretty quickly. You all remember vividly what happened the last time you touched the die, so you kind of realize why she's holding it safe for now because she doesn't want that to happen again, especially in the middle of the town. She's not really sure what triggered it yet, and neither are you. So
She doesn't want us to screw it up. You can just say.
yeah, you guys are gonna screw up. You're gonna light something on fire or something. She knows what you guys do already. So she's walking through all these alleys until she finally gets to an open courtyard where there's a bunch of wagons set up that are basically just traversal wagons that take you wherever you need to go in this land. She hops in one and she's just talking to the writer. The writer is basically shaking his head like no, but she says something to him again and she like sort of points her finger at him and he reluctantly nods his head. So she beckons you to come forward and you all approach her. She jumps in the wagon first. She's at the top next to the writer because apparently this writer was not being agreeable still, so she's sort of like sternly talking to him. And you guys head in the wagon. You immediately leave the city behind you, heading out the northern gate over to this vast mountainside that's in the distance. So it should take you at least a couple of hours ride to get there. So I'll just start off now. Do you guys want to do anything or say anything, talk to anybody while you're in the wagon? Do you want to discuss anything with each other? Because you have a few hours ride ahead of you as you head to the
Can we
mountains.
eavesdrop? Can we see if we can hear what Elaria is saying to
Yeah, why don't you
the driver?
do a perception check for me.
What's the listen? Yes.
Okay, yeah. So you lean your head in against the that little side slot that opens up in wagons usually that opens up to where the drivers are, and you can pretty make out what the driver's saying. He's basically like, well, no one is supposed to head there. Like you know what's there, and she's like, I don't care what's there. We have to go. And he says something. He starts mentioning something about a cult, and you don't know what it is. You couldn't catch the name that he was saying, but he keeps on going on and on about the cult has been pretty prevalent there recently, and he doesn't want to go there because they've apparently been anyone who goes that way doesn't come back.
Well,
Well,
I
I'm glad we're
lower
going.
my tin can megaphone there and convey that to my maybe friends. I mean, we haven't known each other that long, and you keep lighting things on fire. But let's just go with the friends for now.
So just to clarify, are we in a back? Like, are we separated from them, or
Yeah,
are we?
Elaria and the driver up front on that front part where they lead the horses. You are in the actual carriage itself.
Okay. After Dust tells us all that she just overheard, I like lean my head out the window and I say, "Excuse me, why are you not wanting to go? What's going on? There's something to be afraid of."
So Elaria looks back at you. She's like, "There's nothing you should fear. You'll be all fine. Don't worry about it."
Why do you sound worried?
She's like, "I'm not worried. I'm just concerned. We have to get this dye there. I'll explain more when we get there."
Mommy and Daddy are just having a discussion. It's okay.
I will pull this carriage over right now if you don't stop talking.
I'm just sitting in the corner of the back of the carriage, kind of like bathed in darkness, and all you see is like the flicker of my ancient lighter that I'm just constantly like, click open, click shut.
And can you put out that fire back there?
I'm like
I smell it. I smell the smoke.
Except for one time I get a little too close. I'm like, so yeah.
Very smooth.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
I'm just trying to play it real cool. Like I know what's going on. I want to appear, in control here. I don't trust.
Elaria basically opens that back window. She's just glaring at you right now, staring at that fire, and she's basically looking at the fire, then looking at you, looking at the fire, then looking at you.
I don't want to make her angry. She has all the answers we need.
Sure.
All right, so
yet she doesn't tell us the answers.
Can I make like an opposed dexterity check here? I'm gonna try and snatch the lighter from Brooks.
I will allow it. I will allow it.
Okay, I always get you all mixed up. Nim and okay, I'm taking the lighter from Nim because you're making Wick worry.
Yeah, yeah. He pulls that lighter away. He's like, no, mine.
Fine. Fine.
So as
I'll close it.
Yeah.
Put it in my pocket. Cool.
So the wagon's continuing on its path. The mountains are getting closer and closer until you come to a fork in the road, and you see this you see a bunch of other bards on horseback riding past you from the direction of the mountain, and they're all looking pretty worse for wear. They have a look of strain on their faces, and they're pale, and their eyes are gaunt. They look like they've been through hell and back. They don't pay any attention to you, and you just stare at them as they basically shuffle on their way back to where the crossroads is. At the fork ahead of you, you see another wagon that's completely tipped over on the side and two of the wheels broken, and there's a dead horse on the ground next to it. Another horse is alive and well, but is spooked out of its mind right now. So Elaria tells the guy to stop in the front, and the wagon pulls over, and she jumps off and runs over to the bard who's struggling with his wagon. And what do you want to do?
I want to try calming the horse.
Yeah, I jump out and follow her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you want to calm the horse, Brooks?
Would love to.
Of course he does.
Do an animal handling check for me.
I'm deeply shocked.
The horse is still pretty spooked. You managed to calm it down a little bit, but it kind of moves away from you and goes onto the opposite side of the wagon, where it seems to be a little safer over there in its own mind.
Okay.
So Elaria right now is talking to the bard who's trying to fix his wagon, but can't do it.
I stand awkwardly behind her and listen in.
Okay.
Is there anything we can do to help?
Okay. So Elaria turns around and she smiles at you for a second, and the bard looks up, and he's basically he has tears down his face already because he's obviously frustrated. His horse has obviously had better days, and he's like, "Well, my wagon's destroyed, and I have no idea how to put this thing together. I'm lost trying to build it without a clear set of instructions. I didn't build this." So Elaria smiles and looks back at you, and she gives you a wink because she knows everything relates back to what the die has called for. And she's like, sort of like writing a story without an outline. You're trying to fix something without instructions. So the bard looks up at her and does a little laugh because he's familiar with this too. And he's like, of course. And then he's looking through his bag. He's like, wait a second. He's like, I do have a basic outline of how this wagon's supposed to be put together. It's this illustration that they gave me. So he looks at it and he looks at you and he's like, do you think you could just help me put it together without one, or should we use this? Do you use an outline when you're working? And tavern talk time.
Tavern talk.
So what about you guys?
Nice.
Who actually
Midway.
uses an outline? Who does? Do we all use one?
I do.
Ooh.
I'm hopeless without one.
Yeah.
You're like a super outliner too, aren't you? Didn't you say something about like you did like chapter by chapter and like paragraph by paragraph, and you outline every sentence before you write it?
Well, I do a full synopsis, which gets me a good bit of the way there. But, case in point, just this weekend, I was sitting down working on this new book that I'm working on, and I have like a 6-page outline for it. Not an outline. I have a 6-page synopsis for it. And yet I hit like chapter 7 or so, and I was like, something is not right. Something is missing. There's just like, I don't know, there's a tent pole missing somewhere, and I had to sit there and think about it and talk it out with one of my critique partners, and I finally ended up adding 3 chapters in, because I kind of like lay everything out in Scrivener before I start writing so that I can just hop from scene to scene to scene. Scrivener. Copy and paste like the relevant part of the synopsis into the document notes. Scrivener's the best.
I admittedly have never used Scrivener, and everyone keeps talking about it. I think I should try.
It's not for everybody, but I highly recommend it.
I love it. I think it's the reason I do outline. Like I didn't outline before Scrivener, and it's hard to even say that I outline, because it's more like I do the synopsis thing like MK does, and because it's just really nice to know what my big points are, what the big like rocks are that I'm wanting to hit, and it'll change. It'll probably change a lot, but I need to have. It's that whole like, if you don't have a target, you're gonna hit it. Like if you're not aiming, you're gonna. I can't remember what the adage is, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But so what I do,
100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, quoted by Michael Scott.
Yes,
okay.
yes. Thank you, Michael Scott.
So for me, it's like I just need, in order for the writing to come out well, I have to really live in my world. Like momentum is totally a thing, and if I start losing momentum, if I get my head out of the world that I'm trying to do, it just all kind of falls apart, and it takes me like 2 weeks to get back into it. So I have to have a place to put all of my thoughts. And like before I start working on a chapter, I'll write out what I want to have happen in that chapter and all that stuff. And it's this really weird hodgepodge thing that nobody else would ever be able to read, but it helps me for sure.
It works for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Before I used Scrivener, I would never outline. But once I started using Scrivener, I still don't outline. I can't. I'll sort of do, I guess, what Sean was saying about like making sure that I know what a good midpoint would be and what a good like low point would be. And after that, I just start writing. So if I know basically what gets this character started on their journey of some sort, and then I know exactly like what big decision they have to make around halfway point that's going to, be riskier for them, but the reward could be greater, and then a low point to where they think like, oh my gosh, all this stuff is falling apart, to lead up to a very satisfactory climax, hopefully. Then I'll start writing. But even then, like I have those elements like in one little folder on Scrivener, and it just says like, it says outline, but it's not really the outline. It's just those points. And even like when I got to like chapter 3, I was like, oh, that's not what it's going to be. It's going to be something totally different. So now I really have no idea where it's going, but I kind of like that. I really enjoy sitting down and just kind of letting the character make decisions or say things that I never anticipated. And it's like, oh, what if this happened? Yeah. and it kind of leads the story a completely different way. But I still have kind of the core in mind, but all the little frills and bells and whistles are always completely different. So.
Yeah, I think with me, I basically it's weird. I'm doing like two different things now. For my past few books, all I would do is like write a few paragraphs as what I think my story is about, like the general outline of my story, not a full outline. I would start writing, like I think like the way you do, Brooks, just writing chapter by chapter, letting the characters create their own story, until I got stuck where I don't know where my characters are going anymore, and then I kind of go back and start a chapter by chapter outline as to what I think, and then I can kind of fill in the blanks from there. Like, okay, nothing has happened in these three chapters, something has to go in the middle of them.
Mm-hmm.
And is now by going back and forth. I used to go back and forth between like writing chapters and going back and redoing an outline or developing an outline. I would start with like a one-page document, and by the time I'm done writing the first draft, it would turn to like a seven-page outline of a document because I'm like filling in the blanks as I go.
Mm.
But now I'm doing something completely different where I actually printed out a template of like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and I have them all broken out into the acts within the act, and I'm filling them out before I even start writing, just to see if that's going to change the way I write. So this is the first time I'm actually doing a true outline with my new draft, and
Wow.
it's scary, but for the first time in my writing career, I have a story that is almost completely fleshed out before I've written a chapter, which is kind of weird to me. So so maybe I'll save time in the long run with this one. So
Hope so.
That's cool. I've always wanted to try to outline, like do some of the things that I've seen people do, like make cork boards and they put like, sticky notes and everything.
yeah.
I can't, that for some reason, I don't know, it makes me like anxious to see all that paper and have to flip through it. And I'm like, I would just,
Some people
I
have
don't know.
index
I
cards
can't.
to everything. I can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do any of that. Like the only thing that works for me is just like rambling into a blank Google Doc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me too, like it's a like I like to write mysteries into what I'm doing because I'm doing fantasy and adventure and that kind of thing, and so it's kind of all building to this really big action payoff kind of situation, where there's just a lot of things all converging at once.
Hmm.
And if I were to try to like just let everything happen and then all of a sudden try to wrap it all up, I would have so many loose threads
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
wrap up. That would overwhelm me. So
That's a good point. I think a lot of my books also have that kind of element to it, and I think it would be really, really difficult to pull off, or at the very least, it would maybe take longer, having to go back and like retcon everything.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think it's very genre specific. I'm not
Yeah.
outlining it like only for mystery, but like, if you do write something with mystery or that has a pretty big secret in there, you've got to do some sort of outlining.
Yeah, like contemporary, it's not really like the last book I wrote was contemporary with the whole Dungeons and Dragons thing. I didn't really have to outline because I was just every chapter just trying to tap into their emotions more, and there's no real mystery involved. It was more just like a character developing over time. So I
Yeah.
kind of knew what I had to do already off the bat, and I didn't have to do any like twists. So an outline I think is crucial for mystery and fantasy because you have to know how all these things tie together, and if you don't write that down, you're just asking for trouble.
I mean, I'm such a diehard outliner that I'm not sure my opinion is ever valid, but I'm writing an adult contemporary romance right now, and I don't know how I would approach it if I didn't have an outline because I need that. I need to see the arc of how things are going to develop alongside the main plot because like certain things need to line up and I just I really need that plan. And of course it is flexible, like I was just talking about this weekend. I just changed a bunch of stuff around, but it's outlining hard.
it seems like too, no matter how much I outline, I end up rewriting the whole thing. Like the outline ends up it's just to get the first draft done, I think. The outline gets me to that first place where I finally have something that's actually readable.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So any other additions for our little segment of Tavern Talk, or are we about to transport back into the world of D&D?
I'm ready to help this poor bard with the wagon.
Mm-hmm.
Saving a soul without fire this time.
Are you sure you could burn
He
down?
deserves.
Please don't.
You could burn
He
down the
made-
wagon. That'll help him. I mean, you could try.
Do the instruction mention fire?
Problem
Sorry.
solved.
All right, I'm doing one last clink so I can have a drink. So clink.
Woo.
And we're back in our D&D world. So do you guys want to try to put it together without this little guide he has, or do you want to use that guide?
I like the guide.
All right. So use the guide. So
Let's use the guide.
So it only takes you about an hour or so to help this bard get his wagon back on its feet per se, and you reattach two of the wheels. The one horse is strong enough to carry him back to where he needs to go, so he's fine with that. He does give the horse a quick little burial. He just puts some dirt over it, he leaves it a flower, so he says goodbye to
Can I
his
say a
friend.
few words?
Yeah, go ahead, say a few words.
This was a good horse. He was a good horse. Okay, I'm done.
Hell yeah, man.
I grant you inspiration for that amazing little speech you just did. Because the bard was touched by that. He looked at you like, oh, thanks.
Hmm.
And then he looks to Elaria. That horse is a piece of... And then he just goes on his way. So he...
How dare you speak ill of the dead?
So
So offended.
the bard's on his wagon. He reaches into his little side pocket of his coat, and he flicks you a little bag of gold. There's a few pieces in there, and he's like, "That's all I have right now, but I appreciate it." So he starts making his way down the road. He was talking to Elaria a little bit before he left, and Elaria seems to smile at you again, and she's like, "It seems your true goal is to offer your services to as many bards as possible." And she turns around and she points in the distance at the mountains that you're heading to. Your wagon is still waiting. And she says, well, we have to hurry. Upon the top of that mountain is the entrance where I believe the die was created. I didn't want to tell you this yet, but it's an ancient temple controlled by dark beings who bring even the greatest bards to their knees.
Is that what you were concerned about?
Yes, I have a feeling they're behind the reason these bard gateways have been closing. You see,
Should we be concerned?
should you be concerned?
Yes.
I don't believe so. If I think I think you are, you should be fine.
Who do you
Should.
think? Who do you think Wick is? Because I have my theories as well, Elaria. We both look at Wick.
Oh, I think he's quite a talented writer.
That's what I thought. That's what I think too.
Mhm.
That's my theory.
Definitely what we had in mind.
We're on the same page, Elaria.
So Elaria smiles at you again, and she says, "Don't forget, I gave you those gifts the last time, those boxes. They all come from your worlds. You'll figure out how to open them soon, and I have a feeling you'll be able to figure that out at the top of the precipice." And she gets back in the wagon, and she goes up to the top, and she offers you to go inside, and she kind of looks a little off for a second, and she says, you see, this temple used to be home to the bards. It was the source of the creativity. The denizens of doubt have been bent on destroying the hopes and dreams of every bard, and I have a feeling they've corrupted this temple. So she looks back and she tells the driver to move on, and he's reluctant again, but she urges him to move forward. And the wagon starts approaching this precipice, and within the next hour or so, you are basically at the foot of it.
Ooh.
So I'm going to move your... Do you guys see anything in front of you now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so this is the foot of the cliffs of insanity, hashtag Princess Bride. So, so you arrive at the base of this cliff, and it is so unseemingly vast and high that you could barely see where the top is from where you're standing. But what's scary about it is that the rock face is completely flat, and there barely seems to be any footholds for someone to make their way up on top of it. There do appear to be sets of rope ladders and old broken ladders around that lead up. You don't know who put them there, but someone has obviously placed them recently. A few of them look older than others, but they all lead up to a top where you can see sort of an overhang at the top of the cliff. So Elaria points up and she says, "That is our goal."
I do not love this.
So you guys are all at the foot of this mountain right now.
All right.
And you
Can
have-
we inspect some of the rope ladders?
Yeah,
See
sure.
how sturdy it is?
Yeah, so you have a few. You have a group to the left and a group to the right of rope ladders, so you could see which one you want to check out.
Hmm.
I'm gonna check out this ground right here. I'm just gonna camp. Y'all can go on.
So Elaria gives you a look. She's like, no, there's no time for that. We have to hurry.
Do you have like a flying
Why do we have to
unicorn or something to get us up there?
Why
I'm not.
do we have to hurry?
Well, she said that I don't know if the denizens of doubt are up there, but if they are, they could be corrupting this temple even farther.
Is doubt the place?
She's like, she says it's up there, but I don't know how far. I've never been there myself.
Okay.
She's like, I've only heard stories of this place.
Well,
All right. I'm going to inspect the ladder on the right. I'm going to see how sturdy this thing appears to be.
Okay. Give me just do a investigation for me.
Okay.
It looks like a ladder.
Ladder.
It looks like a ladder to you.
I turn around to my comrade and say, guys, it looks like a ladder here.
thank God
Good.
you're here.
Brilliant. Okay.
I'm useless.
Hey,
You know what?
don't talk to yourself like that. Positive self-talk.
I'm going to trust her, and I'm going to climb up the ladder.
Well, if he's not concerned, then I guess I'm going to.
Oh, I'm concerned.
All right, so you're going up one at a time, or you're going up? How are you doing it?
How sturdy did it feel, Wick?
Not to metagame, but the fact that you're asking.
Well, I mean, personally, if I was going up multiple people at a time, I'd make you do some sort of check, but I need to know.
Did the ladder feel
Oh, wait.
comfortable and like sturdy?
Well,
Okay.
do a perception check, Wick. You were just up that ladder.
Okay. If I can remember where perception is.
Yeah, that first ladder seemed perfectly fine. It was bolted like into the rock face with these giant pikes, so it seems pretty sturdy.
Yeah, it's good. Come on up.
All right. I'll go. I won't be happy about it.
Should I continue climbing? Can I continue climbing?
Yeah, it's up to you. Whatever you want to do.
Okay, I'm gonna climb up this one and roll a perception check again.
All right. Well, before you do that, I need you to do
Oh.
a dexterity saving throw for me.
Oh. Oh.
Okay. So that rope ladder actually breaks in half as you're climbing up of it. But you managed to somehow grab onto the right-hand side of the rope ladder, and you're holding on with one arm as the remaining side of the rope ladder falls down to the ground below you.
Nope.
You managed to climb. You were so high up anyway by the time this rope ladder snapped that you managed to get up to this one precipice that was like basically sort of like a halfway point from here to the top of the mountain. But I'm going to need you to roll initiative too.
Just Sean or all of us?
Just Sean.
Or
Oh.
Wick?
We're with you in spirit, Wick. Do you want my ladder or my lighter?
Pretty sure my spirit's back on the ground.
Did it roll?
Yeah, I'm rolling right now for my little dude. Just gotta get my character sheet out for the monsters, because you guys are fighting monsters. Well, Sean's gonna be fighting a monster.
Have fun, bro.
You got this, Sean.
You guys, come help me.
We should rush up. Should we rush up there?
Oh, no, that ladder broke. I don't like it.
We can go up the other side, the left side.
Okay, so the first thing you hear is a booming voice at the top of the mountain. It basically seems to echo throughout this entire valley that you're in, as if he's throwing his voice out into the world. He's like, I know who you are. You can't stop us now.
That
And
might be the cult.
so right in front of you is this flying book that seems to have red marks all in it that is just diving towards you.
Brooks,
And-
where's your lighter? Where's the lighter?
So this book is going to go ahead and try to bite you with its sharp paper cut teeth that it has attached on its side.
Ooh,
It's the Monster Book of Monsters.
it is.
So does a 12 beat your armor?
But
actually, sorry, it has initiative on you because you climbed up and were struggling to get up, so I have to roll one more time. But no, that's not going to hit either. So.
Okay.
So yeah, this book basically does like a dive bomb move, and it tries to swarm at you, and it does like a little swoop motion and goes to the opposite side of you. I need you two at the bottom to roll for initiative now.
Got this.
Boom.
Dang.
I don't think mine applied though.
No, I'm gonna try to add it miscellaneously. Let me see. It is. Oops. No. Go away. I had it like.
I'm 0.
I'm just gonna remember it's 22 because I know I can't see it, so I'll remember. So yeah. So as one of these books attacks Sean, around 5 more start dive bombing down from the top of this cliff where you heard this voice come from. So I'm gonna get all these guys out here.
Ooh.
Can I tell what the titles of the books are?
No, they're all crossed out actually.
Oh, okay.
Like these books look like they've been through the ringer. If you want to do a little investigation on one book attacking you, maybe find out more about them.
I would like to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh.
No, all you notice about these books is that a lot of pages are torn out and there's a lot of red markings in it.
Reading, man. It's hard.
It is.
So I will go to MK. You could go now.
I guess I still have to climb up, right?
Yeah, but remember that rope ladder on the right is kind of busted. You can still try to climb up the single rope that's remaining, but you'll have to do a check for that.
Maybe I'll go up the other side.
So you can move and probably shoot one if you can from where you are.
Well, shooting is not so much my thing, but I will attempt it. I could viciously mock them. I heard you were boring anyway.
The book seems to
try the light crossbow.
Yeah, the book seems to cry a little bit when you say that. The bolt basically flies right by it.
The book has feelings.
Okay, go ahead, Nim. Brooks
All right.
Benjamin.
All right, Nim's going to climb up too, right beside Dust, and I'm going to shoot the book nearest to me with my crossbow.
Okay, go for it.
All right. We'll see if this actually works. I've just been saving up my really good roll for this one right here, and that was not it.
So that bolt actually takes the same course that basically MK's bolt took, and it just clanks off the stone wall
copying me.
And falls to the ground below. I'm actually
We
gonna
look at each other and go, nice grouping.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna roll for. Sorry, I forgot to roll for Elaria, because I'm gonna do that now because she's gonna be joining you too up here. So don't you
Oh, thanks.
worry. So well, she's basically the last anyway. So that works out. So Elaria is going to come up the same path you are, and she is going to basically, what else she do?
I know
She's gonna do she's gonna do a firebolt at the closest one.
Oh, do it, Elaria.
So that hits that one, and it basically, I think it pretty much kills it.
Yeah.
Let me just roll a d10. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so that one basically, the book bursts into flames. and you see the pages just flutter down below.
They are flammable.
And
Oddly satisfying.
Elaria calls out to you. She's like, "Get to the top quickly!"
I got this.
Well,
And
we'll
now
try.
it is your turn, MK, right now. Because we're going back to the paper now.
Guess I'm gonna climb up, and hopefully nothing terrible will happen to me. I don't know how high I can get in one turn.
That's pretty. You have like a 30-foot range. That's fine.
All right, I'm gonna attempt a crossbow shot at whatever's closest to me.
Okay. That misses.
Not my thing.
Yeah, the crossbow.
Yeah.
That bolt continues to fly down. So the books are going to start attacking now, and these books are sort of going to dive bomb Sean right here. So we have 3 attacking him right now.
Oh.
So I'm going to start rolling for these guys. The first one is going to bite again. That is a miss. Second one's going to bite. That is a miss. These guys stink. And that one misses too. So these books are just flying in their face, and they're just flapping pages. But all you feel is the air of the book going like that in your face, and you're shooing them away. You're using,
a little warm.
Wick is indomitable.
Yeah, you're using your weapon. You're just shooing them away, and they're just like flapping around.
Okay, so is it my turn?
Yeah, it's your turn.
Okay, so I take a whack at one that's like, as it's flying in front of my face, I just take my short sword and just whack at it.
Okay, so the book closes up, and your short sword just seems to clang off the cover of the book. So now, Naaman, is your turn.
All right, I am going to get to the top here, and I really want to light one of my crossbow bolts on fire. That's what I think I need to do. So,
Yeah, you have anything in your bag that could light on fire with?
I'm
sure you do. You could.
I've got some, my cloth that I've
that will be your action now, so you won't be able to
Okay.
shoot anything with it this round. So you can apply something to it, but you won't be able to attack this round.
Yeah, I'm going to apply a little bit of extra cloth that I have in my tinderbox to the tip of my crossbow bolt.
Just one, or are you going to do it to a bunch of them?
Oh yeah, let me do 3 of them.
Okay, so you're using your turn right now. You're sitting down. You're just wrapping up these cloths and getting ready to light
Correct.
them. Okay.
Dude, this is not arts and crafts hour. Come on.
Hey, you look behind you. These books are swinging, like doing dive bomb attacks, and he's just on the floor, like, 1 second.
Darts and death hour.
Fire, 1 second. So, Elaria is going to come up again, and she's going to try to firebolt another one. And let's see. Yeah, so that one is going to be destroyed. So let's roll. Was it D8 again? D10? Oh, D10. D10. No, but should just give it an extra attack for critting, though. I'm granting an extra attack for a crit, because I said so. Oh, well, okay, that was enough to explode it. So the one next to you, Nim, has exploded into flames, too.
Awesome.
And the pages fluttered to the ground. Now we're moving back to MK.
All right, I am gonna
Just let you know,
climb up.
the books also are now sort of at ground level because they're like just swarming Sean, so you can attack them with normal weapons if you wanted to.
I suppose I'll go help Sean instead of climbing to the top. So I'm gonna do my double scimitar attack.
I'll give you advantage too.
Seriously.
You have advantage too because you're coming up behind them.
That's great. I needed that, and I did not matter. No. All right, so I'll use my bonus action for the second hit, and there's one.
So that one, that book is basically sliced in half, but it's still floating. It's still flapping with like a bunch of pages, but it's looking like only the table of contents is left. So
punch it in the face.
Prepare to meet your epilogue. Needs to stick
Boo.
catchy one liner.
All right, so now
I cut my hands on my mouth. Did you guys hear that? Did you hear what I said? I'm almost finished with the arrows, but it was pretty cool.
Maybe
So
maybe we can beat all these books by giving them reviews.
Oh no.
It's just mock.
Cruel and unusual punishment.
I
They won't read them.
want to see you try to grab one of these books next round and try to read it just to see if you can.
Oh,
But in the
Yeah.
meantime, the books are going to keep attacking you, Sean. So they are going to roll for some more biting damage because all these books can do is bite. But let's see what they can do. 14, does that hit?
It's, yeah.
That hits. Okay, so that takes 1 damage and 8 poison damage.
Oh. Okay.
ouch.
And the next one,
These are mean.
the next one misses,
Misses.
and the last one does 10
Yikes.
total damage.
You alive?
I am, but just barely.
Okay.
Good thing you're the one with the healing.
And it is your turn now.
It is my turn.
Yeah.
And I am going to use Cure Wounds on myself.
Okay.
Shocking.
Alright.
So there we go.
Okay, so you describe to me how you cure your wounds with that spell. What do you do?
They were biting me, right?
Yeah, they're just like pinching and they're dripping some like greenish, bluish like liquid out of their like jagged paper teeth.
So I slopped that goo off of me while my hand is glowing, and just kind of rub my hand along my arms to kind of stop the bleeding.
What sound does it make?
Oosh.
Staticky. Cool.
What? I love it. Oosh.
The gentle, high-pitched tinkle of a wind chime on a mountainside. Whoosh.
Or
Oh man.
Hey, I add my descriptions later in the
Me too.
I don't write them
Me
when I
too.
draft.
Same.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. All right, so I believe it's Nim. So you could do something. Why don't you use
okay.
your fire bolts?
Yes, I am going to attack the devil book to the top left there.
Okay.
The one kind of in the corner. And I'm going to light my the actual arrows on fire to
Okay.
get the ready the one, and I'm going to attack. So
Okay.
here we go. Oh, okay. That's good.
Yay.
All right, so one of them basically lights it to flames, but as it lights it to flames, it bumps into the one next to it, and they both ignite. So the damage carries over into both. So there's only
Ooh.
one left around by your partners right now. And Elaria is going to come up now and basically send a volley of magic missiles their way. So that is enough to basically obliterate it. So as the one book left above you seems to fly off, and a voice shuts down again from the mountainside, and it's basically booming again. The rocks basically seem to tremble above you, and it starts muttering something. You can't understand the words that are coming out of this voice, but as you do it, Elaria is looking down at her pouch, and the die flies up in the air again, and it actually shoots up the ladder in front of you and disappears into the upper precipice. And you hear the voice boom out again. This is ours.
Ooh.
So
I look to Elaria and say, "What is this that he's talking about? That it's talking about?"
she basically looks at you. She's like, he's talking about the die. They want it for their own uses.
All right.
I pull out a book from my pack, and it's Llama Llama Time to Share.
Okay.
I will read it to them if necessary.
Would you like to read this book to whoever's up there?
I think I sent my copy to my nieces. Sorry.
Oh man, I was looking forward to it.
I was too.
Maybe next time. I'll bring a copy home from the library.
Okay, so what do you guys want to do?
I guess we should go up the
you're-
ladder.
You're out of initiative right now because you're not in battle. He's just taunting you right now, whoever's up there.
Very mean.
And we can't see anyone up there, right?
You don't know who's up there right now. I mean, you can probably see it
Okay.
on your screen, but your characters don't know who's up there right now.
Right.
I forget. Can I use my cure wounds a second time? So
Is it a cantrip?
If you have a spell slot
Yeah,
available.
if you have another spell slot available, you can.
okay, I will.
All right, so you want to go out of turn and do that? That's fine.
Good idea.
There we go.
So can I go like most of the way up the ladder and then do perception?
Yeah, go
See
ahead.
if I can.
Mhm.
Nope.
You basically
We're alone.
Yeah, you peek over the edge. You don't see anybody. You don't see anybody that's right at the foot of the ladder, so you just creep back down a little bit.
Do, 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 do. Come on up, guys. It's fine. There's nobody here.
I'm gonna crawl up and take a peek
I
too. then.
somehow don't believe you.
Why ever not?
Last time I climbed up and I got in trouble.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so yeah, you don't notice anything either. You don't. You know the voice.
Like,
You know the
come
voice
on,
came
Wick.
from here, but Wick does have inspiration. He could grant you another check to roll perception if you want to try to figure out what's up there.
I'm pretty sure I probably just like
I just
take my
climb up
eye
there.
on a
All right,
stray
you just
piece
climb
of
up there.
ladder.
All right, so you just climb up there, and
I'm just like,
Seems totally safe to me.
Elaria, you want to go before me? Not to.
Elaria looks at you and she just shakes her head, like no. So as you get to the top of the ladder, you see this suit of armor that's just standing next to this hut, and you see this cloaked figure who's basically reaching for the die that's rolling in front of it.
No, don't touch that.
So he's about to reach out for it, but you do have a split second if you want to try to stop him from touching it.
Don't do it, man.
I'm gonna rush forward and tackle him.
All right, so why don't you do a strength acrobatics check for me?
All right. So there we are.
Nice. So you rush forward, you push your friends aside, you're like, I got this, and you just bum rush this guy, and you basically tackle him completely to the ground. He's still reaching for the die, and he's like growling, and his fingers are like touching it, but he can't get a grip on it.
And I probably did a perfect cartwheel with a 17. It looked really cool.
Yeah, you did a perfect cartwheel. You just did a tumble through the air.
I was very impressed.
And I stuck the landing.
Can I like take off my cloak and wrap it over the die
Yeah, sure.
Oh.
Go ahead.
and pick it up?
Try it. Yeah.
I try it. I
Do,
feel like I might regret it.
do an Arcana check.
No. Uh-oh. Womp womp.
You got this.
So as you wrap your cloak around the die, you feel it shake underneath it, and it spits out and basically flies up into the air and hovers above this animated armor before it starts spinning wildly, and it basically sucks down into the animated armor itself. The armor starts trembling, and I need you all to roll for initiative again.
Dang it.
Ooh.
That's a nice initiative.
Critical initiative.
Wow, another 23. Wow.
Look at us. Look at us.
This is disturbing. Okay, so let me...
Or awesome.
No, I don't like it.
Disturbingly awesome. Wait, no.
Mm-hmm.
Animated armor. Getting all my guys out. And Elaria. Elaria's going to join you again, but she's still down there. She's scared.
Dang it.
And she's last again. So, Wick, you have the first move. Actually, no. What's both your dexterities? Sorry.
Mine is 16.
What's yours, Sean?
Mine is 14.
All right. So, Dust, you go first.
Okay, so I don't know if I want to just straight up attack this thing.
What you do notice though, because Brooks managed to knock down this guy. He is muttering something of an incantation as he's lying on the ground.
So I'm over here beside the guy, right? Am I still holding him down? Like
yeah,
wrestling?
you're like wrestling with him right now, but he's muttering something.
Okay.
Oh, I don't like that. Well, in that case. Alright, I am gonna try and shoot him with my light crossbow and see if I can distract him, interrupt his concentration from whatever he is trying to do that's probably gonna suck for us.
Okay.
Ooh.
All right. So what would have been a hit is the arrow seems to curve in space and goes right towards the animated armor.
Oh.
So as you do this, the armor actually reaches out and grabs a hold of your crossbow hand, and as you do it, you feel this energy course right through you. And once again, you hear that same voice that you heard from your last encounter in the library that just seems to take over your mind again. But this time it seems to be overlapped with the voice that you heard in the mountain. So you have these two voices, the voice of this cultist and the voice that you heard in the library, both trying to fight each other for concentration of your own mind. And you hear something about, you won't be able to stop them unless you answer another question. The denizens of doubt will try to stop you. And as you say that again, above you, you see the circling books that were attacking you before, and there seems to be hundreds upon hundreds of them just soaring overhead, as if they're circling the top of the peak, which you're not at. The mountain actually climbs up even farther. And these books are circling and circling through the clouds. And the voice says to you again, "They're first drafts that have failed. What do you hope to accomplish in a first draft?"
Ooh.
So as this voice beckons, it asks you to answer before these two beings finish you off at the top of this mountain.
Yeah, I thought this was supposed to be fantasy. It's like my life.
Well, you're in the bar world. You're in the bar world, so.
Seriously. I mean, first drafts bite back hard. And so do second and third and fourth.
Exactly.
28 drafts.
First drafts are the worst.
They are.
For me, all a first draft has to do is exist. I want there to be the general story arc. Because I'm such an outliner, the plot is pretty much intact at that point. Once I give it to critique partners later, then I might end up adding a scene here, taking away a scene there, making small adjustments. But for me, a first draft is about getting the plot events down and a general idea of the character arcs. And that is it. Like I said earlier, I don't write description. I'm an extremely unobservant person, so there's no sensory detail or anything like that. It is basically dialogue and bodies moving through space as things happen. That's all it needs to be. Works for me.
That works. So can I ask real quick, do you write first drafts fairly quickly because of that?
I do. I am a total binge writer. Like I hope to finish the draft of my current book this month. My goal is to write 40,000 words in April, sticking to the 10,000 words a week thing.
That's all.
But that's just how I work. Is I have to like get it all out really fast, and then revise.
That's awesome. For me, I am like I've tried so many times to do what a lot of writers have told me. It's just, on the first draft, just get the words on the page. Don't worry about polishing or anything else like that. And I can't do that. I edit as I go, and I will get fixated on a scene or even like the name of a store or a character or just some sort of little action that I want somebody to perform, and I won't be able to really move past it. Like I can't have a placeholder like, they go here or they hold hands. Something funny happens. I've got to figure it out. Because of that, it does take me a lot longer to finish a draft, but they are generally a bit cleaner. But that is not to say that they are finished at all. For me, the first draft is just to sort of like what MK was saying, just get it on the page and, be able to say, the story is there. My idea that I had, the thing that the characters wanted to do, wanted to accomplish, wanted to say is on the page. And, the subsequent drafts after that, all the revising after that is to, add in even more of those details. And since I don't outline, I will remove characters, even major characters. I've had, drafts before where I started off and I thought, oh, that's good. And then going back after a little while and reading them, have to take out major characters or add in someone else or make some pretty drastic changes. So yeah, the revision process seems never ending, but it's good. It's totally worth it every time.
I think as a human being, I am really obsessed with efficiency. This is not necessarily a healthy thing. I definitely take it to extremes in some areas of my life, but the thought of spending a lot of time on a scene that I might cut, I think drives me to get through them quickly, so that I can get to the end, I can go back and analyze what I've just written, and then I can make sure, like, okay, all of this is going to stay. Now I can actually devote real time to it.
Cool.
Yeah, for me, it's a lot like that. Like I realized a few years ago, it took me a while to realize it, but I realized that if I spent too much time on that first draft, it was harder for me to make the hard decisions to cut stuff because I spent so much time and I really liked the way I said something or there was that little character interaction that was just my favorite and nobody's ever going to care about it in the end, in the actual book. And so for me, it's like, I know that everything I'm writing right now is like almost none of it is going to make it through to the end. So to spend that time, I do the binge thing too, MK. So typically what I'll do is it'll take me a few weeks to get my first like 40,000 words. And then I will take a retreat and I will write another 50,000 words over the course of like 4 or 5 days.
What?
I can't even fathom that. That's insane.
You really do.
Yeah.
It's like 10 and 11 and 12,000 word days. And it's brutal, but
my wrist would not work.
There's something about experiencing it in almost real time for me that, because it seems like every time I write a book, it always takes place over a really short time.
Me too.
And so it's like I'm experiencing it, and that leaves me with like the same emotional highs and lows as my character. And I don't know, it just works for me. But I judicious use of placeholders, like say something funny or name this character at some point in the future.
Oh yeah, I just put an @ symbol in front of everything so that I can Control F for the @ symbol later on, and it's just
I put
everything.
I couldn't do that. I would. That would bother me.
Plot
so
twist
much.
here. Plot twist happens here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually names or facts or, anything that's going to slow me down in any way that I have to come up with something, then placeholder, figure it out later.
Yeah, and I don't know about you guys, but I wonder if you do it, MK. I don't think you do, Brooks, but if I were to guess. And Tom, too. We still need to hear from Tom.
No, keep talking. I'll talk after you.
Right. But whenever I start slowing down, like my pace of writing slows down, I will put a break in what I'm writing and then just start writing about the fact that I don't know what to write. Like
That's funny.
it's like I know I start just typing out, I know that this needs to happen and somehow they need to get over here, but I don't know why. And this is really boring. And I'm like, okay, this is really boring. What would make it not boring? And I just kind of think it out loud onto the page, and it helps. And that stuff is all over my first draft. Nobody can ever read a first draft of mine.
That's awesome.
I kind of do that, but I tend to do it like in a Google chat to one of my critique partners or something. So, sympathy and shout out to them.
Mhm.
What I'll
Awesome.
also do though is I'll put in a line break and then I'll jump down to where I know there's going to be another bit of dialogue, because dialogue I write quickly and that's what comes easiest for me. And then it's easier for me to go back and like knit those two pieces together and see how I can get from there to there.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, my first drafts are kind of weird. Like I talk about this all the time on Twitter. I always talk about how I'm word vomiting every day because I really think of my first drafts as just pure word vomit, because I don't even know half the stuff that's coming out is making any sense in the long run. And I do notice, I think I'm like you guys too, where I have, like you, Sean, you said how you don't even know if chapters are going to make it into the end. I notice when I'm done with my first draft, I'll like look at it and start highlighting chapters in red, yellow, and green. If I think like red is probably I'm going to cut it, yellow is like I don't know if this is working, and green is like this is one that moves the story. And I always feel so depressed when I have to delete the red chapters, because those are like chapters I did for my own like fun. But like you said, Sean, it's never going to make any sense, or people are not going to enjoy it the way I'm enjoying it right now. As much as I love having them in there, it's always like an internal battle of doing it. And now in first drafts, I notice that if I come to a point where I just have to word vomit as much as I can, and I'm sort of like you, Sean, which people kind of make fun of me for being able to spit out first drafts like once a month, and I just do that on purpose, but because I just can't stop once I start a draft. But if I ever do stop, I have first drafts sort of like waiting to like tap out, like wrestling matches. Like I'll just go to my other first draft that I'm already working on. So I usually work on like 2 or 3 first drafts at the same time, and I just follow the one that I'm currently having the most momentum with. And it's confusing because sometimes I'll be into one, then lose interest and move to the other one, and I'll forget what characters are in this one and start writing character names of my other stories into it. And it gets to be a bit chaotic, but it's actually fun how new stories for me develop out of combining. I've actually, that book that I sent you, Brooks, that Runaway book, ended up being a combination of 2 first drafts I was writing. And I just decided to mold the 2 together into one book, so it worked better that way. So I was like, instead of having 2 stories that were separate, I was like, this will work better as one major story, so let me just combine the 2. So I was actually taking chapters from one first draft and moving it into a manuscript of another first draft, and doing like a weird like Frankenstein's monster of a first draft. That actually worked. Cool. It's the first time it worked, so I was like, okay. I don't think that'll ever happen again, but why not?
I'm assuming this is true because one of the authors that talked to him said this, but Andrew Smith's book, The Alex Crow, he had told me, the author that talked to Andrew Smith that was on the panel with him, said that book actually started off as like a few different short stories, and then they got pieced together into that one novel because he just really liked all 3 of the short stories, which is why, it goes from kids at the camp to this other situation to this other situation. It's like, this is so weird. It's like 3 completely different stories, but they do end up, kind of coming together at the end. So, hey, that works. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Tom, I am impressed that you can keep all those stories. Like, just
I have to keep going.
Not.
If I don't like taking breaks with writing. I feel like if I take, like, PAX is my break, and if I take a break in between first drafts, if I don't have a first draft ready to go and edit that's done, I feel like I'm slacking off. Like, I always have to have a first draft ready to edit, and if I don't, because when I'm done with the first draft, I start writing a new story just so I have to go back on that one to edit it, because I always have to have something to fall back on. That's just the way I work. It's weird. It causes a headache sometimes, but I just always have to write. So
whatever works for you.
Yeah, I think that's the key. Like, whatever works, because I've when I first started writing, there was I didn't know what I was doing, and for the most part, I still don't know what I'm doing. But getting on Twitter and trying to just listen to authors, and there are so many great authors out there offering advice. But one of the things that some authors kept saying is like, you've got to just finish that first draft really fast. Don't worry about stuff. Just get it on paper. And I was like, trying to do that with one of my early stories. It's like, I can't do that. I'm like, I can't get past this moment in the story. It's like, I need to do that. And I couldn't do placeholders. I couldn't do anything like that. And I thought, I'm just not going to be able to be a writer, until I eventually just said, well, let me try it my way. And took a long time to finish a draft. And it ended up being, like I said, a fairly clean draft, but still needed quite a bit of revising. But I think that's it. Just find out what works for you. Just because, one person does it this way and swears by it does not mean that is the way to write. So
it's a little like growing a plant. Like there's different plants and they grow in different types of soil, and some grow really slowly over time, and then some just sprout right up and they're just there and have flowers and whatever. And
my stories are definitely weeds. Can't get rid of them.
I for the longest time I was so baffled at all these people who are like, gosh, this draft just keeps coming. It's just so long now. I always end up with like 150,000 words, and then I have to trim it down. And I'm like, but how? All my first drafts are like 55 to 65,000 words. Because there's no sensory detail in them, so they all grow later on. They seriously grow from like 60,000 words to 85 or 90,000 words in that first round of revision, just because I leave so much out.
See, mine end up being long. They do end up being long, but it's that whole, like, I think it's probably because I'm not outlining as diligently as you are, because I have tons of stuff that I end up cutting out, like just way too much that I wasted time on. But we're not wasted time.
No, not wasted time.
Yeah.
And it also takes me an extremely long time to get the outline ready. So it's just like, where are you spending the time? You're spending the time either way.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to get an outline ready?
Oh, God, it depends on the idea and how stubborn it's being. If I'm like really focused, this is my mission in life right now, I might get a full synopsis together in like 3 weeks. But that's like, I am not drafting at all during that time. All I'm doing is thinking about this idea, constantly turning it over in my head. All the people around me are totally sick of me because I'm like, hey, so I need to talk out like a little thing about this book. And they're like, dear God, okay, fine, talk. It's not a pleasant 3 weeks, but
By that time, Tom has written 4 manuscripts, and I have figured out my manuscript's name. So, yeah.
It's just up to my head in manuscripts that are just making no sense. Piles upon piles of vomit just lying on my computer.
Well,
it's a good image.
It was vomit. It was very good vomit. It was enjoyable vomit.
Delicious vomit.
Delicious vomit.
So as we talk about the vomits, the die pulls back from this animated armor, and you still see it shimmering inside, but the armor seems to be paralyzed right now. It's not moving at all, but the die is trying to break free from it. So now we're entering Wick's turn, as you guys have escaped the pillaging thoughts of the creature of the die.
So is this guy over here, is he still like mumbling stuff?
He's still muttering something. You don't know what it is.
Okay. I'm going to cast Dissonant Whispers on him.
Puppies and kittens and flowers, puppies and kittens and flowers. Stab! No!
So, okay. He has to
saving throw?
He has to make a wisdom saving throw.
Okay, let me get him.
Versus puppies?
Puppies! Did I pass it?
I don't know how to tell.
on your, if you click on spells at the top right, it says spell save DC.
Okay, it's 13, so.
All right, so yeah. So does anything happen on a successful save? Okay, so I take half as much damage. And I don't have to move away.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, so this cult is basically like racked with pain that it just doesn't know where it's coming from. It's kind of rolling on the ground, and he's screaming now. it breaks his concentration, and you just see the armor behind you sort of grow limp a little bit, and the die is still trying to break free of it. And now it is Nim's turn.
All right. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to reach into my handy dandy satchel because I've got something for this guy because I'm right on top of him, right?
Yeah, you're right.
And I'm going to pull out that small pile of glittery goblin dust that I collected from last time, and I'm going to shove it into his mouth. I'm just going to get him to stop muttering these words.
Wow.
Puppies and cattle.
What sort of move should you do for that? Let's see now. I'm gonna have you do a.
Have I ever actually done something normal on this thing?
No, you really haven't. That's what's. I'm always like, what do I have to do with you? Why don't you do? I want you to do a sleight of hand check to see if you can shove it into his mouth properly.
Oh.
So you basically you take the dust and you're just like rubbing it on his face, and he's like, and you're like putting it like. It's like basically just like a glitter bomb on his face, and he's like spitting it out, but he's still
that's the worst.
He's still managing to mutter this incantation, but he's like barely keeping it together right now.
He looks fabulous now.
Oh, he looks gorgeous right now.
Just made it worse.
So the animated armor is up next, but this animated armor is just not moving. It can't move forward at all, but it is going to try to take a swipe at you. Dust, but it's rolling at a disadvantage because it can't control its momentum right now. So it's going to do a slam and taking the lowest, and that's not going to hit. So
nope.
It's trying to move forward, but it seems to be like, you know how it would be like rusted armor just trying to clank together, and it just sort of like flops his arm and misses completely. The cultist is trying to crawl away, so it's just going to disengage right now as it's crawling back behind. So it withdraws from combat. But Elaria comes up, and she's going to magic missile him.
Elaria saves us every time. Thank you, Elaria.
So Elaria is going ahead and cast magic missile, and it's enough to finish him off. So the missiles basically burst forth from her hand and comes in 3 and just penetrates into his chest, and he just kind of falls over, and his body just falls off the cliff and lands with a thud at the ground below. So he dies. But the armor is still there, and that die is just rattling around inside, but is really having a hard time moving. So we're back to Dust.
Is this considered a humanoid?
No, it's not.
Boo.
Boo.
Less fun then.
It is a construct.
Damn. Dang. Darn.
Darn it.
Whenever you beep me out, can you just like put like a little rubber duck over my mouth? It's just like whack.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. That will be our trademark bleep. The rubber duck symbol apparent. Yes.
Yep. Okay. You know what?
You do have advantage on all your rolls against him now because he can't move really.
Yeah, I'm just feeling a little jealous of all of Nim's super creative, awesome tactics, but I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna stab him. Just gonna stab him.
Stab him.
Here we go.
Glitter dust.
All right, so that's.
Oops, sorry, wrong button.
That's fine.
Boom.
All right, so that's.
They still both missed, I think.
No, they hit. He may be armor, but he has enough openings on him where you could really get your blade in. So you hit twice. You basically go into the chinks of the armor, and this like viscous goo just starts seeping out of the armor in the open armor slots, and it basically starts crumbling a little bit, but it still has enough of a punch to it that it can still try to attack if it's able to move. So
I'll use my bonus action to try and finish him off. Ooh, boom!
Oh, that
crit.
So you take your scimitar and you basically shove it into the chest cavity that's open and rise the blade up through its helmet, and the viscous goo just spills out onto the ground, and the armor just collapses. And at the feet of the armor is the dice.
Awesome.
Can I take the helmet?
No.
Yeah, it's a busted helmet. You can take though. It's not gonna really add much to
I
it.
put it on top of my sword, and then I
You
shake
earned
it
it.
back and forth, so it's like a bell.
Okay.
Like spraying viscous goo everywhere.
Hey, can I inspect the
Umbrella.
viscous goo? I may want some.
You want to inspect it? You can inspect it. Go ahead. Do a Arcana check.
All right. All right.
Basically, you're sort of familiar with this goo. It's basically the formation of the construct that is. It's like an old soul of the armor is basically created to physical form to control the construct. It has no basically soul. It's just mindless. But you know that's what it becomes when you make contact with it.
Okay.
Doesn't really serve any purpose besides controlling the construct.
But I could shove it in someone's eyes. I could.
If you
throw it
want,
in their
if you want to pick that up too, you're more than willing to put it in your pocket.
Yeah.
I asked Elaria to please control her die thingy.
So Elaria looks at you. She's like, "I can't control it." She's like, "That's the problem. No one can control it. That's why we have to get to the top of this mountain. But I don't know how to get there. This seems to be the ending point of this precipice." So she walks off to the side, and she's trying to look around, see if she can find anything.
Well, I'm not picking up the die.
Someone pick up the die. See that?
Bad things happened to me last time.
Sean, you should pick up the die.
Oh,
Pick up the die, Sean.
I picked up the die.
Okay.
Everyone's telling me to.
Nothing happens this time.
Rubber ducky.
So
So
glad you had the same experience we had.
Elaria looks at you. She's like, "It seems to be calm for now, but we have to get to the top end quickly." And she starts walking away to the other side of the precipice, trying to figure out if there's another way up.
I do a perception check looking to see if I see another way up or anything unusual.
Yeah. So you see, right in front of you, next to this domed tent area, this boulder seems oddly out of place.
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Can I inspect the hut? Can we go in the hut? Is it stone or is it like cloth?
You could go in there.
I go in the hut.
Okay. Why don't you do an investigation check?
Quick, while he's in there, run away.
It looks like the cultist was just using it as a sort of like lookout point. There's nothing in there besides food, a few tent like camping items, nothing else that you would really seem to be out of the ordinary for someone positioned as a lookout.
Can I grab a bit of food for my pet rat?
Go ahead, grab that food. It's poisoned. Your rat is dead.
Plot twist.
Dun dun dun.
Raising the stakes.
I will have my revenge on him.
Your rat was just playing dead. It's fine.
Oh, okay. My rat does that. My rat's really smart.
All is forgiven.
So I'm going to investigate this boulder thing.
Okay.
The
So
boulder.
you see the outline of what looks to be as if the boulder is placed on top of something. It has an obvious crack, creating like a semicircle going from the bottom to the top. And at the very bottom of the boulder, you see what looks to be as engraved, like more of an indentation that could fit the die.
I put the die in.
Okay.
Rocks
Without
fall, everyone dies.
Anybody without consulting anyone.
No, you went for it. That's admirable.
So as you put the die in, this opening appears behind the boulder as the boulder rolls back into the cliff face.
You guys, I think I found something.
It opens up into a large stairwell that just goes into utter blackness. So Elaria comes back and she looks at the stairwell and she's just looking at you three and then up at the stairwell again, and she takes a step back towards the ladder, and she says, I cannot continue. You must face this alone. The denizens will be waiting, but I feel you are prepared. If you reach the top, you'll discover the temple of the bard's creation. But I told you, the denizens of doubt have transformed that place of worship into a dark monstrosity, and this die seems to be attracted to it. Perhaps if you discover how they made it, you could find out how to destroy it, or at least harness it. And with that, she just walks down the ladder and returns to the wagon.
Whoa.
I see how it is.
Okay.
And thus concludes this episode of Dungeons and Drafting.
No.
Brooks's rat dies again.
And he's back to life. The viscous goo.
Yeah, you use a viscous glue to bring the rat back to life.
Shoot back to life.
I pull out some empty vials and collect some of the viscous goo because I wanna pull a nim later.
Right.
Does it smell?
There'll be a time.
Does it smell?
Yeah, does the viscous goo smell? Like, do the two of them stink now?
Like dandelions.
Why don't you do a perception check?
But
I just shoved my
dandelion.
armpit right in Wick's face.
They smell.
No.
They smell like bacon to you. Like,
I have
they
a terrible
smell
smell
really
anyway,
good. They smell really good.
Vegetarian.
They smell like tofu bacon.
I don't eat fake meats.
They smell like a bushel of strawberries.
Acceptable.
Okay, good. Okay, well, that concludes our episode. Stay tuned next week as our adventurers go into this deep, dark cave of wonder. I am your DM, Tom Torre.
And I am Brooks Benjamin.
I'm Sean Easley.
And I'm MK England.
See you next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Sean's is more like no stop. It's like
Don't do it. Don't do it.
we're gonna teach you dream sequence jazz fingers.